breakfast, the chicken's involved, but the pig's committed. Think about it, okay? Let me ask you something. We're all in financial services here. What's the one thing, and don't tell me compliance and paperwork, because I can't help you. But what's the one thing that we have to do in this profession that you'd rather avoid? What is it? Making calls, facing rejection, someone saying no to you. Big fear, right? If that's the scariest thing, then what I suggest you do is you make a commitment, a daily contact commitment. The commitment works this way. The day doesn't set that I don't ask X number of people a day to see me. That is the one thing I have to do every day. If you're new in the business, it can't be less than 10. I hate to tell you, it just can't be less than 10. If you're more established or what have you, try 3 or 4. Just try to do that. You think this is simple? Try it. Just try it. When I was doing, my number was 7. Okay? So what happened is the guy's lifting weights early in the morning. I go down, I see him, and I asked him, he said, no, 1 down, 6 to go. How many can I get rid of before 10 o'clock in the morning? It's kind of a game. You have this pressure on you, do it, because you know what happens. It's time to make the calls. Well, let's see, there's this advanced marketing thing here that just came down. Oh, some compliance stuff. You've got to read the compliance stuff. I always wanted to be compliant. See, a wholesaler's coming in at 1, it's a free tuna sandwich. String this out to 4. The Jets are playing the Eagles tonight, you know what I mean? You do something, there's a technical term for it, it's called farting around, right? You never get around to it, and then you avoid it. If you do the daily contact commitment, what you're doing is, you know, here's the point. If 7 was your number, and you had 7 no's, you had a successful day. You did, because you faced your fears. You got it done. You made that. You might want to call 3 more to give you your edge up on the next time. And you know what? I don't think that this is just something you do. I think it's a reaffirmation of faith. Faith that you do something worthwhile. And St. Augustine said that faith is believing in what you can't see. And when you have faith, you can begin to see what you believe. I don't mean to get religious on you, but you, body and soul, have to be in the middle of this business because it's the only way to do it. The more I pump myself up is not in terms of how much money I make, but the potential impact and my importance to others makes that happen. I feel good about it. It gives me the courage to get on the phone. If I have 7 no's, I had a successful day. You know why? Because when you do this process, you're managing to effort and not results. You can't get paid on effort. You get paid on results, but it manages to efforts because results, guess what? You don't control. You don't control whether someone will see you. You don't control whether someone will buy from you. You don't control interest rates, the Straits of Hormuz, or atmospheric pressure. The only thing that you control is your effort. And Gandhi said that true satisfaction doesn't come in the accomplishment, it comes in the effort. Total effort is total victory. And so it's the idea that the more I focus in on my potential impact on my clients, it gets my mindset thinking that way, which gives me the courage to make those calls. When I make those calls, I reaffirm the fact that I do something that's significant and worthwhile. And that's the way that would operate, and that's the thing for productivity. It's something that can keep on going. And I'll just put this whole business in a nutshell for you. There's 3 types of people out there. There's people who listen to your advice. There's people who don't listen to your advice. And there's people who never heard your advice. Your job is to keep the people who listen to your advice. Kill and eviscerate the people who do not listen to your advice. That's a joke. Don't go out and kill them.
And Thomas shut the bastard.
And the third is talk to people who haven't heard your advice and turn them into people who do listen to your advice. Let me ask you a question here. Is there anyone in this room that has a client that saps the very life force out of you every time you see it? You can feel the marrow in your bones coming out of your ankles as you fall into a pool like the witch in the Wizard of Oz when they talk to you. Do you have those? Fire them. There's no reason for you to hold on to people who don't respect what you do.
Amen.
Especially the ones who sound like they're doing you a favor. Dump them. And the only reason you would dump them if you knew you had other ways of getting other people on. Those are the people who bring you down. So why do we do that? Why do we get in the slumps? Why do we keep losing clients? Why do we keep calling the same people to see you because you're accustomed to it and you want to do that? Why do you do that? You do it because you allow, guess what, folks? It's called fear. Fear to enter into your practice. So it's not bad to feel fear, but it's bad to do what fear tells you. I have a little video on fear if we can play that, please.
Vence tus miedos, atrévete, cambia. Saga Falabella.
I got this in Spain. I wish I knew what the hell. No, I know what it says. It says dare to do something new. The guy who said the best about fear was FDR, right? The only thing that we have to fear is fear itself. Unjustified terror that paralyzes effort, requiring effort. It was pretty good. I can't remember. It says requiring effort to turn retreat into going forward, that type of thing. That's what it is. It's only fear. Let me tell you what I think your big part of your job is. We don't ever talk about it. Your job is to kill the wolf every day. Is to take it head on and to kill the wolf every day. And let me tell you something. You do what I tell you, and you do a daily contacting, you're going to find out you're going to have a lot more real problems. You know why? Appointments get canceled, the doctor lost the medical, the illustration didn't come out right, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to stretch all the limits of what you're able to do. But there'll be real problems. You'll have no imaginary problems. And those are the worst. And look, we spend a lot of time in this business talking about what you want. That's your goals. We spend a lot of time talking about how to get what you want. Those are skills. But we never talk about why you would do it. And you have to answer that question, why you would do it. Because people won't do business with you because of what you do. They do business with you because why you do it. And that's why you have to begin to focus in on the impact you can have on others. You can go through this change. It doesn't happen overnight, but that's where I think you should have your, that's where I think you should be focusing in on. So, having said that, one thing I would tell you, Nick Murray, I don't know if you guys know him, www.nickmurray.com. I urge you to get this book, The Game of Numbers. He never wrote a book on prospecting because most of his financial services people make a lot of money. You know, he found out everybody stopped calling people. We got smart, we're getting compliant and all this other stuff. That's really what the business is about. And to close this out, rejection, it starts at an early age, so just get used to it, okay? So having said that, let me give you a personal story when I got started in the business, okay? I got started in 1974. I was with Home Life Insurance Company. All I had was whole life on uncompetitive term, okay? And has anyone else in the room been around in the business in 74? Anyone else? There's a couple of great tops out here, right? You know, because we can help these folks out, right? If you guys think what we just went through or in the middle of or coming out of is bad, you had to be back then. We had record high inflation, record high interest rates, low productivity, and an economist would tell you it's virtually impossible to happen. And it lingered. And then in 1979, Business Week comes out with this magazine. It says the death of equities. Finally, my mother said, because she was a product of the Depression, right? She said, I've told you, go get a nice government job, you'll have a pension, you'll have a nice life. You know, that's the way she thought, right? You know what I mean? That's what she thought. But what happened when I was a kid, I didn't know I have any background to it. But when this came out in August of '79, the S&P closed at 109. It closed at the end of June of this year, close to 1362. It looks like equities didn't die. You know what this tells you? This tells you that faith. Notice that word again. Faith in the future is the only worldview that actually jives with the historical facts. Let me give you some more facts. You're now looking at all the bear markets since the end of World War II. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at this and say, it looks like there's a pattern here. It looks like we get a decline on average every 5 years, 33% decline, lasts for around 15 months, some are deeper and longer than others. But focus in on these two numbers. The trough that we had in the 40s versus the trough we had in March of 09. Remember March of 09? Yeah. The market went all the way down? Yeah. That number, 676, is 50 times greater than the number that you see up there. And I discounted 60 years of dividends, which is one of the few things that actually beat inflation during that time. This tells you faith in the future is the only worldview that jives with the historical facts. Here's the problem with facts. You stick to the facts don't stick. It isn't a question of what you know or what your clients know. It's a question of how you and your clients behave. It's their behavior. And it's got nothing to do with the facts. Because we tend to be more obsessed with giving people more information, and I'll prove it to you. Class, when the market's at 1565 and it's screaming, what do people do? They buy. What do they do when it's at 676? Does that make sense? No, because everyone knows value and price is in the inverse of each other, but they do exactly opposite of what they do. That's because of the fact it's not a question of knowledge, it's a question of behavior. And so why do people behave like that? There's two sides to the brain. The left-hand side is the analytical part, the right-hand side is the feeling part. I think we spend too much time over here. On the left-hand side, we give more facts and figures. A lot of our stuff happens to be very banal. It happens to be very clinical in terms of the questions and the way we ask people stuff. It talks in a language that doesn't connect with them. The left side thinks, the right side feels. The left side communicates, the right side connects. And connection is different than a communication. When you get someone who says, I think this is okay, that's a communication. But when someone says, this feels right, then you've made a connection. And here's the point. What feels right may not be the most efficient. Let me say that again. What feels right may not be the most efficient. And that's where margins lie. And that's why people don't necessarily want to buy a product, they want to buy a process. Because the problem's not the problem. They don't even know how to think about the problem. They have to have a process whereby they get involved in their own solutions. I have a lot of stuff on this, but I don't have really a lot of time to get through that. So anyway, we shouldn't beat ourselves up too much on this because it's not just financial services, it's everything. How did this happen? It's part of a larger paradigm. It's the information age. In the late 70s, early 80s, PCs came out, right? Everything could be spreadsheeted, right? Everything could be analyzed. It put forward a train of thought that was narrowly reductive and highly analytical. While those skills are still important, they're no longer sufficient. So what is the legacy of the information age to our business? It's called selection and timing. Do business with me because I'll select the right stuff and I'll time you out of it at the right time. Sound familiar? If you say that or intimate it to someone, you will build a referral-free practice. You got it. Because it's virtually impossible to do. There's no statistical evidence for the persistence of performance. But what happens is we wind up always chasing performance even when it's not even a goal. So one of the things that you have to begin to understand is you don't even control. There's very few things you control. The only thing you got a shot at managing happens to be your client's behavior. And that's something that you should give some thought to. And that requires a relationship. And there ain't a kiosk in the world that's going to take that over, as Vince was talking about. So having said that, Vince also wanted me to come talk to you because he knew I used to do a lot of top secret research at Met. Since I'm no longer part of Met, I'm taking a big risk here. Because if they know I showed you it, they'd come after me. So keep it to yourself, all right? So top secret, we call it Joe's interesting and amazing stuff, okay? Curious and shocking facts that most people don't know. After extensive research, we found out that everyone dies. This seems very obvious to you, but there's some left-brain analytics out there who don't see it that way. But there are some critics who really don't like our business too much. One of those critics happens to be this person, you know? She hates variable annuities. She hates them because she thinks there's a rip-off. But I have a little video with Susie where she got caught, and I'd like you to play that for me, if you would, please.
Our next guest says investing in variable annuities makes no sense, regardless of whether you own them inside or outside of your retirement account. Susie Orman, what do you like worst or hate the most?
Variable annuities outside. No, if one